Hi, I'm Conrad White, here to present Success Counsel's 14th episode on the illusion of choice. In this video, we will explore the faux choices created in our everyday world. From major industries to media to politics, we are really only given the appearance that we are making an independent choice that actually matters. In reality, whoever we vote for, whatever we buy, and whatever we choose really only leads us to one thing. So let's dive in. Let's start with our food. As you leisurely stroll up and down a grocery store, you stop your cart and glance at the 45 different options of cereal, thinking to yourself, which one should I buy? And while you may choose one over the other, the truth is they are made of the same processed crap, will fail to nurture your body just about the same way, and are actually produced by one of 10 companies. Take a look at this chart. In it, you see Kraft, Nestle, Procter & Gamble, and a few others pretty much control the entire commercial food production industry. What do they have in common? They all put the same processed toxins in your food. Ever notice that the food on your shelves continues to last longer and longer? It's full of an increasing list of preservatives. But you get to feel good making your own choice on what you eat. The fact is, it's an illusion, and it doesn't stop there. Moving on to the media.
All of the things that are important reduced in choice. Newspapers in a city, how many? Used to be 3, 4, now it's 1 or 2, they're owned by the same people, and they also own a radio station.
Only 6 major media companies dictate about 90% of the television, radio, newspapers, and other media we have access to. In less than 30 years, the number of companies providing us with our media has dropped from 50 to just 6. The 6 companies consist of GE, News Corp, Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, and CBS. If you're wondering who owns the major networks, it's CBS, of course. GE owns NBC, News Corp owns Fox, and Disney owns ABC. And one thing that these news channels have all agreed on, they will report whatever the government and big interest groups, i.e. the war machine, allows them to report. For example, during the Vietnam War, journalists reported cold, hard facts. They showed our young men dying and the reality of war, a truth that swayed public opinion and put a stop to the unjust Vietnam War. Dean Rusk, U.S. Secretary of State, once said, "This was the first struggle fought on television in everybody's living room every day. Whether ordinary people can sustain a war effort under that kind of daily hammering is a very large question." Today, although our servicemen and women are dying every day, and we still have thousands of troops in Afghanistan, Iraq, and other war zones around the world, the media has stopped covering the wars. In fact, the Bush administration banned the U.S. media from showing coffins or other signs of American casualties. And although Obama lifted the ban in 2009, media coverage of casualties has remained non-existent. In some cases, Western reporters were fired or disciplined due to their actions in covering the war. For example, Peter Arnett, an NBC and National Geographic correspondent, was fired for giving an interview with Iraqi officials in which he questioned the United States' role and said the first war plan had failed. During the U.S. attack on Iraq, 80% of Fox News viewers and 71% of CBS News viewers believed one of the following false facts. 1. Iraq gave support to al-Qaeda. 2. Saddam Hussein was personally involved in the September 11th attacks. Or 3, Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. Both of these news agencies had their ratings increased by over 200% after the war began. In 2003, a study released by Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting stated the network news disproportionately focused on pro-war sources and left out many anti-war sources. They also underreported civilian casualties, which are somewhere between 100,000 and 650,000. No one really knows. Point being, they are all the same. They may hoot and holler for a left-wing agenda or a right-wing agenda, but the truth remains. We are all being played by the same small group of people. The saddest example is our politics. If we look at the recent election, it is abundantly clear that never before have 2 candidates been alike on so many issues. They both are funded by big banks like Goldman Sachs. Both are for bigger government. Both support unconstitutional indefinite detention of Americans. Both support undeclared wars abroad. Both are for bailing out giant corporations that need to fail. Obama is Romney. Romney is Obama. It didn't matter. The reason we were all sent off to the voting polls was to give the illusion of choice.
Forget these foolish elections. The owners of this country don't care about the poor in general.
Owners of this country? What are we going? But is this Karl Marx talking to me? The owners of this country are the voters of this country.
You're wrong about that, my friend.
Aren't the owners of this country the voters in this country who elected George Bush?
No, they're not. Listen, for politics, these elections are a charade. It is a charade.
Okay.
It is. They are meant to. Well, I'll tell you. Listen, just listen for a minute. Learn a little something. The elections and politicians are in place in order to give Americans the illusion that they have freedom of choice. You don't really have choice in this country. Give these people a voting day every year so that they'll have the illusion of meaningless choice. Meaningless choice that we go like slaves and say, oh, I voted. The limits of debate in this country are established before the debate even begins, and everyone else is marginalized. They're made to seem either to be communists or some sort of disloyal person. A kook, there's a word, and now it's conspiracy. See, they've made that something that should not be even entertained for a minute. That powerful people might get together and have a plan. Doesn't happen. You're a kook. You're a conspiracy buff. A conspiracy buff.
Okay. Not as a result of a conspiracy, but because...
You don't need a formal conspiracy.
Right.
When interests converge, these people went to the same universities and fraternities, they're on the same boards of directors, they're on the same country clubs, they have like interests, they don't need to call a meeting, they know what's good for them, and they're getting it. And there used to be 7 oil companies, there are now 3, it will soon be 2. The things that matter in this country have been reduced in choice. There are 2 political parties, there are a handful of insurance companies, there are about 6 or 7 information things. But if you want a bagel, there are 23 flavors because you have the illusion. You have the illusion of choice.
Right.
You don't get the real important choice. There's no freedom of choice.
That's a great point.
This is something Ron Paul has been saying for years.
Can you name names? Who's blocking it?
Well, I don't know the individual, but I would know one thing. If Obama wanted change and change of the system, at least exposure, he could do something. But, you know, he got nearly $1 million from Goldman Sachs. So we don't expect anything from the administration. The same people, you know, whether this to me is a perfect example of my argument that I've made, and I think you generally agree with it. There's not a whole lot of difference between the 2 parties.
No.
You know, they're owned by the same people. You take this Goldman Sachs issue. Wouldn't it be revealing if we were able to get the transcripts and all the agreements and discussion that all Treasury and all Federal Reserve officials have had with Goldman Sachs? I mean, that would be a revelation. But, boy, they're hysterical when they think we're coming down close to saying that we might be able to open up the books. I got some information the other day that during another crisis in Central America, the banks were in trouble, and our Fed went to the IMF and told the IMF to pay the interest to the banks. I mean, that's how corrupt it is. And the whole thing is as this system continues to falter, they're not going to give up. They're going to move all these shenanigans over to the IMF. They're going to have a world organization. So the powerful elite then will have a world currency. That's what they're being planning for right now. So we as a people really have to wake up. My effort is exposing the Fed, opening up the books. The American people want it, and we have both Republicans and Democrats demanding it. But you made the right point. How are we going to get the leadership to do what the American people are demanding?
How much time do we have, Ron?
That is hard to say. Timing is really tough in Austrian economics. We know what the inevitable outcome will be. But I would guess it's just a few more years. I would think the handwriting will be clearly on the wall before Obama finishes his first term, which means the next shoe is the crisis in the dollar, the value of the dollar, not just the financial system. We will see high inflation rates soon.
Congressman Ron Paul, thank you very much, sir.
So what if?
What if that establishment doesn't want and doesn't have the consent of the governed? What if the two-party system was actually a mechanism used to limit so-called public opinion? What if there were more than 2 sides to every issue, but the 2 parties wanted to box you into a corner, one of their corners? What if there's no such thing as public opinion, because every thinking person has opinions that are uniquely his own? What if what we call public opinion was just a manufactured narrative that makes it easier to convince people that if their views are different, then there's something wrong with that, or there's something wrong with them? What if the whole purpose of the Democratic and Republican parties was not to expand voters' choices, but to limit them? What if the widely perceived differences between the two parties was just an illusion? What if the heart of the government policy remains the same no matter who's in the White House? What if the heart of government policy remains the same no matter what the people want? What if those vaunted differences between Democrat and Republican were actually just minor disagreements? What if both parties just want power and are willing to have young people fight meaningless wars in order to enhance that power? What if both parties continue to fight the war on drugs just to give bureaucrats and cops bigger budgets and more jobs? What if government policies didn't change when government leaders did? What if no matter who won an election, government stayed the same? What if government was really a revolving door for political hacks bent on exploiting the people once they're in charge? What if both parties supported welfare, war, debt, bailouts, and big government? What if the rhetoric that candidates displayed on the campaign trail was dumped after electoral victory? What if Barack Obama campaigned as an anti-war, pro-civil liberties candidate and then waged senseless wars while assaulting your rights that the Constitution is supposed to protect? What if George W. Bush campaigned on a platform of non-intervention and small government and then waged a foreign policy of muscular military intervention and a domestic policy of vast government borrowing and growth? What if Bill Clinton declared that the era of big government was over, but actually just convinced Republicans like Newt Gingrich that they can get what they want out of big government too? What if the Republicans went along with it? What if Ronald Reagan spent 6 years running for president, promising to shrink the government, but then the government grew while he was in the White House? What if, notwithstanding Reagan's ideas and cheerfulness and libertarian rhetoric, there really was no Reagan revolution at all? What if all this is happening again? What if Rick Santorum is being embraced by voters who want small government, even though Senator Santorum voted for the Patriot Act, for an expansion of Medicare, and for raising the debt ceiling by trillions of dollars? What if Mitt Romney is being embraced by voters who want anyone but Barack Obama, but they don't realize that Mitt Romney might as well be Barack Obama on everything from warfare to welfare? What if Ron Paul is being ignored by the media, not because, as it claims, he's unappealing or unelectable, but because he doesn't fit into the pre-manufactured public opinion mold used by the establishment to pigeonhole the electorate and create the so-called narrative that drives media coverage of elections? What if the biggest difference between most candidates was not substance, but style? What if those stylistic differences were packaged as substantive ones to reinforce the illusion of a difference between Democrats and Republicans? What if Mitt Romney wins and ends up continuing most of the same policies that Barack Obama promoted? What if Barack Obama's policies, too, are merely extensions of those from George W. Bush? What if a government that manipulated us could be fired? What if a government that lacked the true and knowing consent of the governed could be dismissed? What if it were possible to have a real game changer? What if we need a Ron Paul to preserve and protect our freedoms from the government? What if we could make elections matter again? What if we could do something about this? From New York, defending freedom every night of the week.
Now that you know it's all an illusion, what are you going to do about it? At Success Council, we suggest you take back your choice and opt out of the illusion. Look for real food, local or grow it yourself, real media, protect the internet, and real political candidates like Ron Paul. Thank you for taking the time to learn how you are being manipulated and taking steps to help yourself. And thanks for the great feedback we got on our last 3-part video series, The War on Drugs. In those videos, we discovered the 40-year war had cost over $1.5 trillion and had been a complete and utter failure. I think we woke some people up about how much, and more importantly, why the government is spending on this epic fail. Coming up next, ever since the election, the idea of certain states and people seceding from the nation has come up. We are going to explore that option. So subscribe to our channel to check out our next video or come visit us over at successcouncil.com for more great material.